Just because they have done it doesn't mean they can teach you how to do it. A real coach, a real mentor is not just someone who's done it, but somebody who has actually helped others get results again and again and again. So look for evidence of repeatable success and actual outcomes in the other people, not just in their own career highlight reels. And what I mean by that is look to their clients and not just to them. Hey there, welcome back to Speaker Driven Business Podcast, and this is actually episode 79. Now, I'm coming to you solo on this one because I want to have a conversation with you, or I want to bring you into a conversation rather, about choosing a speaker coach. This is not a conversation I ever thought I would bring to the podcast because it would be so easy to sound self-indulgent. And I'm going to do my best to stay away from that because obviously I'm a speaker coach and speaker coaching and training is what we do. But yesterday I was onboarding a new client and we were walking through what is the problem that she actually solves and who is it that she solves it for. And we unlocked one of the things that's been holding her back. This is a woman who has a previous career in professional services at some of the highest levels. She has gone into a deeply spiritual path and has worked out a way to blend the two. So it's a powerful juxtaposition, but it's also very difficult for standard marketers as such to put her into the right place because the way that we've been taught to speak and to market and to communicate is very much about identifying the box we belong in and explaining how we work inside that box to the audience inside that box. But that approach is almost broken. And in the conversation that we had during her onboarding, this was a private client, it's our 2-hour strategic call, I actually challenged her because everything she was giving me was a demographic. Who are your audience? It is this person doing this thing at this stage, in this environment, looking for this thing. And I understand that from a marketing perspective, we do need to start there. But the danger as speakers and experts and commentators is that if we stay there, we stay amongst the noise. We don't ever actually speak to the internal voice or the internal dialogue of the people that we know that we're here to help and the people that we can impact the most. We also are unable to speak into the internal dialogue and the problem that needs to be solved for those people who are actually going to book us, aka the clients, the ones that will sign the contracts and write the checks. And it's this shift. You need to shift from the demographic. My ideal audience is this person in this scenario, in this phase, in this location, in this environment, who is looking for X. We need to shift beyond that. We need to shift beyond that. And we need to move to the psychographic. And the psychographic, in very simple terms, in my world, is this. What is it that is going on in their inner world, in their internal processing, that your topic, your expertise will actually give them answers to the questions that they are both asking, the questions that they won't ask out aloud, and to those unspoken questions that they are yet to articulate, they just can't put their finger on it. And once you can understand the psychographic, then you can actually really start to move the needle. Now, when I was doing this with my client yesterday, it blew her mind. In fact, she almost started crying online with me. And the reason being was this sense of relief because she knew that she didn't fit in a box. She knew that she was blazing new pathways, which so many speakers and experts are doing. And she didn't understand why she kept missing the mark. Now, this woman is 3 or 4 years into her journey of getting the positioning right for her speaking. And this is what I want to bring home for you. You need to be engaging with a speaker, coach, trainer, or mentor who actually understands more than just their way, who is actually able to look at how we break through into the unconscious mind. Like everybody talks about, as a speaker, we need to get our audiences shot from head to heart. We need to get our clients to understand the problem that we solve. We need to get people shifting and creating transformation from stage. And in my words, taking people from where they are now to where they never expected to be, right? So where they are now to where we want them to be, to where they never expected to be. This is what we talk about, and yet no one pulls up to get the fundamentals right on how we actually do this. It's also behind what is the questions that we use in the Blue Apple strategy. And that's in a previous podcast episode. I wish off the top of my head that I could tell you what it was, but you can find it. And we'll make sure that we drop it into the show notes. But this is actually behind many of the questions that we ask in the Blue Apple strategy, because we've got to tap into the psychographic. We've got to tap into that internal angst, that internal drive, that internal desire, that internal wanting something to change and to shift. Because if we can't speak to that, we stay in the noise. And this is what I want you to understand. It's not enough to work with someone who says, I can teach you how to tell a story. It's not enough to work with someone who says, I can teach you how to get on a stage. You've got to work with people, understand the psychology around positioning, the psychology around problem solving, the psychology around language. You know, we were doing a hot seat pitch coaching session this morning in the Speak More Collective. And in some of those pitches, we were changing one word. And that one word was making all the difference. You have to work with people, understand the psychology. When you go to speak on a stage, it is not just about the speaking. It is not just about telling your raw and real story. It is about all the elements that go in together to ensure that you embed yourself into the cellular memory of your audience, to make sure that you are memorable and repeatable and that you can create some sort of demand. There is so much to it. So this is what is going on in our world. People come into our world and they are blown away by the structure, by the how-to, by the tangible outcomes, by the real results, by the community and by the support. And the reason they're blown away is actually the reason why I stay in this business, because I'll be very blunt. The intersection of speaking and coaching can get really murky. There is no real barrier to entry other than telling the world that you can do it. And it can get very murky. And quite often, because we haven't been loud and proud enough about what we do, quite often by the time people find us, they're burnt out, they're exhausted, and they're wondering whether this is really for them. So today, I don't actually care if you ever engage with us. Actually, I do. I want to be your coach and I want to be your last coach. But if you are going to invest in coaching, if you are going to invest in training and education around the craft of speaking, the business that goes behind it, then there are a few things that I want to point out to you that I want you to actually think about before you choose your next speaking coach. And these things have all come out of the feedback of the clients who are coming into our world, talking about what provides relief, what provides hope, what the difference is to what they've experienced before. So if you're ready, I'm going to give you the things that I know that you need to actually be very aware of when you're looking at a speaker trainer, a speaker coach, the person who's going to take you through to that next level. And the first thing is this, is if you are looking at someone who has held big stages as a professional speaker, is at the top of their game, you want to make sure that it's not just that they've done it, but they've actually also taught others to do it and to do it well. There are a whole range of speaker trainers out there who are teaching others to speak simply because they have risen to the heights of professional speaking themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of my work is because I have done what I teach. However, you need to know that not only can they do it, but they can teach others, and they can teach others to get results and outcomes. Because many great speakers are not built for teaching and coaching, and that's really good. And the same as in sports and high performance sports, many of the greatest coaches and teachers don't actually speak or play in the high performance sport that they're going after. A real coach, a real mentor is not just someone who's done it, but somebody who has actually helped others get results again and again and again. So look for evidence of repeatable success and actual outcomes in the other people, not just in their own career highlight reels. And what I mean by that is look to their clients and not just to them. Just because they have done it doesn't mean they can teach you how to do it. The second thing is you need to find someone who will coach, teach, and train, and not just be your greatest cheerleader. Cheerleading is amazing. Coaching is incredible, but you actually need the combination of all three. You need someone who can coach, teach, and train. You don't need a hype woman. You don't need a wingman. You need a sharp strategist. And the best speaking coaches, trainers, and mentors, they don't just listen and validate. They don't just lead everyone in a round of applause because your story was amazing. They actually break things down. They teach structure. They help you land the moment and not just feel good in it. They don't take over and write it for you. They show you how to express what's inside and shape that. So ask yourself, are they actually giving you tools Or is it all just a bunch of great vibes? The third thing is, I want you to think about this. This is the thing that actually blew my mind as a result of COVID. And this is, they offer a community of practice, not just solo sessions and membership groups. Now, we do have a membership group. We've been calling it a membership group and we've realized that's the wrong word. We have a program called the Speak More Collective, and our own members have been telling me that this is a community of practice and this matters. Speaking is a solo sport. And you grow faster in rooms full of other people who know what it is that you're doing, this crazy game that you've taken on. You need to find a coach or a trainer who's built a network or an ecosystem of speakers where you can grow together. You want feedback loops, peer practice, access to momentum, access to more training and skills development. Think about if this was your professional career in traditional circumstances, how much you would invest in continually making sure that you're moving forward. You want access to momentum, not to a silo. So look for trainers and educators who have great communities of practice, not just membership groups where they're throwing big names at you, where they're throwing access at you. Places where you can actually go and learn and continue to hone your craft in amongst a community of like-minded professionals. The fourth thing is you want someone who gets your inner world, not just your outer performance. Like we opened with in reason number 1, you are not just a demographic. You are yourself a story, a set of fears, and a fire that's burning. And you need to choose to work with someone who can see past your surface, can see past the title, the industry, the gender, the age, your religious and political beliefs, your sexual persuasions, all of that. You need someone who can see you, who can make you feel seen, and who speaks to your psychographic, your mindset, your blocks, your beliefs, your ambitions, your wiring. It's not about where you're from. It's actually about where you're really trying to go. And you need to find someone who can see you well enough that they can help you path out the pathway of one, right? It's really interesting what happens when we actually take the time as coaches and educators and trainers to truly see the person, the expertise, the unique lens, and how that should play out in the world. And this, I think, is one of the flips that I want you to look for. It's not how this plays out in the world with the world telling you how it plays out. It's actually someone going, I see you, I hear you, I know where to take you, no matter what the world looks like from the outside looking in. So number 5 is you want somebody who's strategic and not just style driven. How you speak is really important, but what you say and why that matters so much more. I'm asking you to avoid coaches who obsess over filler words or where your hand should be or how you should stand on a stage, but never help you build a clear commercial message. Strategy-first coaches, mentors, and educators will help you craft ideas that get booked, remembered, and paid. Not just tell your story, not just shape some funny lines. This needs to be strategy, not just style. The next thing I want to talk to you about is element number 6 is that they are contemporary, they're inclusive, and they're evolving. Speaking is changing quickly. The advent of AI is not about that we'll be able to do videos that sound like us and look like us and who's real and who's not. The advent of AI is actually changing how our brains are listening for information. And that is creating a change in environment at a step change rate, which means dramatically faster than anything we've ever experienced. If their advice feels stuck in the TEDx era, if you feel like you're speaking to Toastmasters, and please don't get me wrong, Toastmasters has their place. If it seems to fit just a certain kind of person, if it seems to fit one way to tell a story, and sorry, I'm just pulling up there because it reminds me of somebody who's a previous client who is now training speaking. And one of the things that has been interesting is her clients have come out of her work and bumped into our world is that they have all told me that they felt like it was her way or no way. That they didn't feel like their individual experience and how they wanted to shape their message and the impact they wanted to make was actually taken into consideration. Absolutely was in the sales call, absolutely was in the onboarding, but then the strategy, the methodology, and the feedback all actually was trying to shape them into being mini versions of who she was, right? Run from that. Absolutely run from that. So we need to be contemporary. We need to know what's working. We need to understand the psychology behind the words that we use. We need to be inclusive. One of the things that we actually are really intentional about is creating safe spaces. And safe spaces doesn't mean just for the standard bell curve, middle of the range client that we have. We have had transgender, fully transitioned transgender women in our rooms. We have a range of people with different sexual and political beliefs. We have a range of people with different religious beliefs, and that's okay. It's a melting point, right? We are very inclusive and we are ever evolving. So have a look around at who the people are working with and make sure that their work is contemporary, that their environment is inclusive, and that they are ever evolving. And then the last one, which is really important, number 7, is that they adapt to you. Right? This is not about overlaying a framework onto you no matter what. When I first started doing this, I remember being at a whole series of events. In the first sort of 12 to 18 months, I got very intentional about becoming a really great speaker trainer. I went to a lot of events just to watch the speakers, and I wasn't watching them to be motivated. I was watching them to see what they did and how they did it and understand how they moved. And one thing I became very aware of, because I'd been trained by so many different speakers earlier in my career, was I could almost pick them out. I could almost say, oh, that person was trained by Karen, that person was trained by Sean, that person was trained by so-and-so. I don't want any of you walking out of my rooms sounding like me. God forbid that you should sound like me. So we have a really robust framework that underpins what we do, but it is strong enough for you to flourish on top of that. I want to help you find your own voice. And it's really important that whoever you find to work with, you find your own voice. You're allowed to find your own models, your own methodologies. Absolutely, over a robust framework that we know works, okay? But you actually should also have someone who's willing to break those frameworks to honor your story, your expertise, and your insights. And if somebody has zero flexibility in how you actually get to the final version of your keynote or your signature speech, then you should run. And then I want to leave you with just this one last thing. A great coach or mentor, trainer, educator, whoever it is that you're looking for next, they don't just ask great questions. This is not just about being a coach, asking you questions to reflect. A really good speaker trainer directs the traffic. We're not about asking better questions. We actually know when to step in and say, here's what you do next. The right coach, trainer, educator, I don't care what label you give to it, knows when you're stuck in analysis or fear and need action to move you through. They are able to lay out a plan, name the priorities, and point directly to the next step. They don't let you spiral, and they steer you through. You don't want someone who waits for you to figure it out. You actually need someone who helps you move and move at the pace that is going to work for you. Sometimes that will mean that people like me are asking you a very powerful question. Sometimes it means that people like me are handing over a step-by-step plan that you can follow. And sometimes it means being very direct and people like me saying to you, do this now and we'll come back to the rest later. I want you to look for a coach who can toggle between insight and instruction, between holding space and making the damn call. And that's the difference between a breakthrough and a burnout. Because here's the truth. There are so many people who'll cheer for you. There are fewer who can show you how to actually win the game. So if you're ready for more than good job, if you want strategy, structure, and stage-ready momentum, either message us directly on the platforms and let us know that you're ready, or ensure that you take this list of what you need to look into with whoever it is that you're going to choose, because it's time for all of us to move the needle and to move it for real.